Shalom, and welcome to another in our series of podcasts from Temple Beth, a dynamic center for conservative Judaism in Los Angeles. This is a recording of a Shabbat teaching with Rabbi Chaim Singer-Franks.
I think it's appropriate, as my holy wife pointed out, to dedicate our Shabbat Zachor learning today to the people of Israel, to the people of Eretz Yisrael, the people of Am Yisrael, the entire people Israel, that we should dedicate ourselves and direct our kavanah, our brachot, our prayers to their safety, to the safety of Chayalei Tzva Agana Yisrael, to the people of the Israel Defense Forces, to the people of the American Defense Forces. We pray that they are successful and that they return safely into all innocence. We pray in the entire region that they are spared violence and injury. May it be God's will. So I want to just open very quickly saying good Shabbos and thank you for being here, and it's a joy doing a little bit of learning together. I don't know if we're going to term this Purim Torah. Purim Torah is a style of teaching and a style of learning surrounding Chag Purim, which has a lightness to it. It's not necessarily all that serious, but there is gravity to this because it has to do with the way that we practice, the way we conduct ourselves on Chag Purim. So on the front page, you'll see two illustrations that I chose. One is a 17th century painting of Esther standing before Achashverosh by an Italian painter. The second one is a poster from a celebration, from one of the earliest celebrations in Tel Aviv called the Adloyada. The celebration itself was called Adloyada. And this one in particular caught my fancy because it's very possible that my grandparents were at this one. My maternal grandparents moved to Eretz Yisrael, Mandate Palestine, in 1933. And my mom loves to say, oh, watch the old films from the Adloyada. My parents are in there somewhere, right? So if you ever catch it on YouTube, maybe you'll see my maternal grandparents. I think we're going to do natural little chavruta groups, just from where you're seated, from where you're situated, all right? And the first thing we're going to do is look at a couple of passages from Megillat Esther in order to prime us and to understand the basis of our conversation as it regards Adloyada. Adloyada meaning, anyone? Until you don't know. Until you don't know, right? Which is the commandment surrounding on Purim, right? Okay, we're clear on that. So let's begin. Take 2 minutes with the person or the people that you're in closest proximity to seated. Read verses 12 and 13 of chapter 3 of Esther. Go. I want to hear it. The noise of the Beit Midrash. Okay. Beautiful din of Jews learning. Megillat Esther. What stands out for you?
That's decreed is an issue, because once it's decreed, there's no undoing a decree. Right. There's no congressional override for this. Right.
And how is that decree affected? Through what? Through what means? Anyone? A seal. A seal. From a signet ring. Yes.
Every people in its own language. This is a big decree. Yeah. This goes far and wide. Yeah. If this was successful, this could rival the dead of the destruction of the temple or other Jewish problems. It's a big deal.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal. Right? It's why the 13th of Adar is a fast. Right? There's another opinion, by the way, that we fast on the 13th of Adar because there's something missing from the other part of the story. We learn, and we'll read about it in just a moment, we learn that just an unbelievable, heartbreaking volume of people are massacred by the Jews of Persia. We hear nothing about any of our own casualties during the entire course of the Megillah, and there's an opinion that the massacre, or that because the decree was already known in the days before this, that the Persian people actually began their massacre and their plunder in the days prior to this, and that we actually fast on the 13th for those of us who had fallen, as a sort of a yahrzeit in a certain way. It's one rabbinic opinion. Okay. Take another moment and now read. It's listed on the page as verses 9 through 14 of chapter 8. It's actually 9 through 13. My apologies. Go ahead, take another 2 minutes and read together verses 9 through 13, starting on page 2. Okay. I've always wanted a signet ring. Really, ever since I was a kid, I've always thought, like, wouldn't it be cool to, before I sent the letter, to drip a little wax on it and, it's literally the word that we use where we refer to the order of the tefillot. We call that a matbea, which is literally a stamp, and it's also what we do with a signet ring. We make a stamp on something. It fixes it. It has texture and it has form to it. What stands out about these verses?
One is the reverse of the other. It's the same thing that's going to be taking place. They talk about that it can be la'arog, la'ashmid, ula'abed, that's what was going to happen to the Jews. Now the Jews get to go back to them. They were going to go and take all their possessions. The Jews were able to take all of their possessions.
Yasher koach. It's a copy-paste job. Literally, from one decree to the next.
My name's Ann Sturman. I'm a visitor. I was a member of Library Minyan 35 years ago. I think it's interesting that in the decree that I'm sure Mordechai helped write, that children and women could be killed also.
To say that it's disturbing is an understatement. And in my haste to put together the learning package for today, I buried the lead to such an extent that I actually excluded something, and that's why I handed out an extra sheet, which is we shouldn't know of it, but it's relevant. It is at really the center of our discussion. So would someone pick up that single sheet that I handed out and read it? Read it. Do I have any extras? Or do we have any extras to pass it? Because we can pair up. Yes? You want to read it for all of us? I could read it for all of us. I could. I never gave it a lot of thought when I read it as a kid, and Purim is such a kid's holiday. And the Jews smote all their enemies with the stroke of the sword, and with slaughter and destruction, and did what they would unto them that hated them. And the other Jews that were in the king's provinces gathered themselves together and stood for their lives, and had rest from their enemies, and slew of them that hated them 75,000. But on the spoil they laid not their hand. So they were allowed to take the spoils. And that's one difference, that they actually didn't take the booty, if you like. Last verse that I've highlighted. The days wherein the Jews had rest from their enemies, and the month which was turned unto them from sorrow to gladness, and from mourning into a good day, that they should make them days of feasting and gladness. And the word that's used for feasting and gladness, mishteh, literally from the word to drink, right? Vesimcha, and happiness and gladness, and of sending portions, v'mishlach manot ish l're'ehu, from one person into his friend, to his neighbor, umatanot la'evyonim, and gifts to those who are less fortunate. What about this? What stands out for you? What thoughts do you have about it? What are your feelings about it? What is there to say about this? What on earth is there to say about this? How many people feel uncomfortable about it? Okay. If you don't feel uncomfortable about it, why? Who would like to say why?
Okay. My name is Warren Ira Blum. You have to take this in the context of the historical context, okay? So the way I see it is that it's either us or them, Okay, they wanted to destroy us, and if we didn't destroy them, they would destroy us. Even after the decree, besides the decree, this was like the type of mentality at that point and the type of reality, and maybe there's some of that still exists today between Iran and Israel.
Okay. So, how many people agree with this? Okay, don't be shy. Don't be shy. They were going to kill us. It's us or them. That is a perfectly reasonable historical understanding of this massacre. What else do we have to say about it?
Well, I'm not saying, actually feel a little uncomfortable now because I never really paid attention to realizing that so many Jews died and that there was a big battle. I didn't, by that point, usually you don't, I never really.
We know how many Jews died. We know
Okay.
how many of them died.
Oh, but there were some Jews too, right?
Great question.
Because if there were, which we have to assume there were, then people are mourning and they're also celebrating, which is bizarre.
So you
that's
raise a really important point, and I think it's important for us to keep in mind that it's not just a minor point that we don't see anything about our casualties in this. There's an overwhelming military success on our part against those who would have destroyed us. Anybody else want to reflect on this either way? Alan?
Just to add something, after sending out to kill the 75,000 people, and they say feasting and gladness, but at the same time, they're talking about taking care of other people, presumably Jews, but it's not altogether clear. But it's going to be sending portions to your friends and gifts to the poor. So it's like they're doing this, what on one level looks like a heinous act to kill 75,000 people after you've been miraculously saved by what's taken place, at least in the story of the book, and yet they're killing these people at the same time. Well, let's celebrate. Let's go and do some good things as well as we do it.
Okay, so there is something somewhat redeeming about it because we're licking our wounds too. Yeah?
No, I just wanted to say, Marlies, just part of the discomfort that at least in modern times we make a distinction between combatants and civilians, and that doesn't seem to be here. Yep.
And again, we look at that. Thank you, Marlies. We look when in the framing of a modern view of warfare, we draw a distinction between combatants and civilians. I pointed it out when I dedicated our learning. I made a distinction between those whose jobs it was by conscript or by draft or whatever it is, and what we consider to be innocents. There's none of that. In the sensibility of, let's say, the wars of antiquity. War is war, right? Are we okay? I want to skip ahead. Turn to page 4 and find the part where it says Talmud Tractate Megillah 7b. And we come to the phrase that we understand, which is not in the Megillah, comes from the Talmud, and it's how we understand ourselves to conduct ourselves socially, in the primary practice of Purim. Who would like to read it?
Yeah. Rava said, a person is obligated to become intoxicated with wine on Purim until he is so intoxicated that he does not know how to distinguish between cursed is Haman and blessed is Mordechai. Continue.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to hold on that because the other part, the next the next portion of that portion of the sugya is a wild story, and you're probably familiar with it. If you're not, we'll take a look at it in just a moment. But here's the terminology that we use. Here's the name of those parties in Israel that went on for decades until they were in the 1950s. There was this huge objection to the Ad Lo Yadas by some ultra-Orthodox sects, and the Ad Lo Yada celebrations were moved to Chulon, to one of the suburbs of Tel Aviv. Interesting, huh? Yeah. Pardon me? The objection was that it was too much revelry, that it became sort of this debauched thing. Now, I mean, if you want to look at it purely from sort of a cross-cultural perspective, what does it look like? It looks like Mardi Gras. Huh? Right? Look at where it is on the calendar too. So are both Mardi Gras and Purim borrowing from something else common in history, which is related to neither of them? Could be. Is one borrowing from the other? Could be. Right? We invented it first. Ich weiß nicht. All right, let's look at the second part of this Megillah passage, of the tractate Megillah passage. Who would like to read that? The Gemara relates. Go for it.
The Gemara relates that Rabbah and Rabbi Zera prepared a Purim feast with each other, and they became intoxicated to the point that Rabbah arose and slaughtered Rabbi Zera. The next day, when he became sober and realized what he had done, Rabbah asked God for mercy and revived him. The next day, Rabbah said to Rabbi Zera, "Let the master come and let us prepare the Purim feast with each other." He said to him, "Miracles do not happen each and every hour, and I don't want to undergo that experience again."
In other words, I'm not going to be your drinking buddy again, if you don't mind. Right? It's an amazing story. It's if you take it from the Joseph Campbell perspective, this is hero appears to die, hero is reborn. It's a remarkable moment. Yes, the Gemara is filled with magical reality stories, but this one in particular seems to be responding to the edict of the prior portion of it, which is drink until you don't know the difference between Mordechai and Haman. And if indeed this is a copy paste job from one decree to the next, then I ask you a question. Do I need to drink one drop in order to say I don't know the difference between these two things? Who said it was midah keneged midah? One gesture, one act in order to cancel out another. How much do we need to drink in order to say to ourselves, my God, I don't know the difference anymore. I don't even know what I'm doing anymore. I don't know who's who in this story. I want to ask you to read one last thing together as sort of the close to this, and that's the piece by Adele Berlin. And I want to thank Rabbi Dr. Daniel Reifman, who I corresponded with, who's a teacher at Machon Pardes, and I listened to the podcast on Purim, and he brought out this incredible commentary on Esther. And I want to take a moment to read it. Would someone like to read it aloud to the ancient reader? Yeah.
Testing. To the ancient reader, an imaginative story was just as worthy or even as holy as a historically accurate one. So to declare Esther to be imaginative does not in any way detract from its value. What we have in chapter 9 is the orgy, riot, the revelry that fits so well with farce and carnival. The violent free-for-all in which the Jews kill their enemies is transmuted into the revelry of the festival. The make-believe victory is the safety valve for diaspora Jewry that permits the continuation of the belief in the security of their lives and their community. Esther should be seen as part of the same literary context from which the Greek writings emerged. Esther and the Greek work share a set of literary motifs and stereotypes relating to Persian court life. The comic aspects of the book are not incidental, merely to provide comic relief. They are the essence of the book. They define the genre of the book and thus set the parameters according to which we should read it. We cannot appreciate the story fully unless we realize that it is meant to be funny.
Ha ha ha. Again, we're looking at different sensibilities. We're looking at a style of farce, which, according not only to Dr. Berlin, by the way, because one of the problems that biblical scholars encounter with Esther, among other texts in Tanakh, is the historicity of it. There's no evidence that this actually happened. And yet, we have an entire festival built around it, with practices, with obligations. We like to have our hamantashen and eat it too. So what's the deal? Does it have to be a true and real story for us to derive from it something that actually hits our kishkas and tells us who we are? This is our story. I want to remind us of that, because as problematic as you may see it, or as just as you may see it, this is our story. And in order to grapple with it, we can do both things at once. We can have an obligation to read the Megillah in its entirety so that everyone can hear it. And we can also have a party in which we say, I have no idea who the hero and who the enemy of this story is, because this is craziness. This is craziness encoded in our tradition.
You've been listening to another in our series of podcasts from Temple Beth Am, a dynamic center for conservative Judaism in Los Angeles. If you enjoy these podcasts, we invite you to write a review on the Apple Podcast website or wherever you get your podcasts. For more information on Temple Beth Am, Los Angeles, please visit www.tbala.org.